Children have a unique perspective on all that we do and say. Those of us old enough will remember Art Linkletter and children say the darndest things. They come up with answers that defy understanding. I gave a little riddle to the Bible study class on Tuesday last, and they couldn't get the answer right. It's very simple. Everything, and I can't remember it now, but I'll tell you that the first wrong answer came from a kid in first grade, because it was a first grade teacher that was asking the riddle, and it was done on purpose to teach them something. She read the riddle, everything appeared in it several times, in other words beginning and ending in E, and she asked the last question, what is it? What is it didn't really fit with the rest of what was being said. But a little first grader popped up and he said, death. Oh. Somebody else said something else. I had spirit, which is a wonderful answer, but it's not right. God, I thought of that one myself, and others. The answer is letter E. Everything begins, something else ends in E, something else begins in E, something else has E in it. What am I? The letter E. Kids come up with answers that we don't expect. Death, he said. It stopped the rest of the first grade class. They couldn't go on from there. Where did he get that from? You and I understand clearly how we communicate with God, how we talk to God in our prayers. Now, I must confess to you that sometimes mine are a little jumbled because my voice, if I'm speaking out loud, can't always keep up with my mind, which is about 5 miles ahead. So I mostly pray in my thoughts. And then there are those times that I'm praying in my thoughts where I ram into a wall and I know there is something I want to say, but I don't know how to say it. And I struggle and I groan, and then I get silent, and I let my spirit speak for me. We always use nice language when we talk to God. We talk formally mostly. You can clearly see the way that people talk on issues of doctrine and scripture. Let's listen. Little boy says, "Dear God, I read the Bible. What does begat mean?" What does begat mean? Anybody know?
Born to?
What does begat mean? It's something that all of us take part in. We have all been begat. We've been born. You know, you read the begats in the Old Testament, there's a whole string of them, paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. People are born, begat. Nobody would tell him what it meant because either they were too embarrassed to say or didn't know themselves. How did you know you were God? Another question in prayer. Dear God, are you really invisible, or is that just a trick? Dear God, I would like to know why all things you said are in red. Then there are the questions of a little less eternal significance. Dear God, who draws the lines around the countries? Dear God, I'm Canadian. What are you? And there are always statements of life in general. Thank you for the baby brother, but what I prayed for was a puppy. Why is Sunday school on Sunday? I thought that was supposed to be our day of rest. Dear God, if we come back as something, please don't let me be Jennifer Horton because I hate her. One thing you must understand about children, they are very open and very honest. They speak their mind. They don't couch it in nice language. They simply put it out there. No one can give praise and thanks like a child. I think the stapler is one of your greatest inventions. Dear God, don't ever feel alone since I don't ever feel alone since I found out about you. Dear God, I don't think anybody could be a better God. Well, I just want you to know, I'm not saying that just because you're God. Dear God, I don't think orange went with purple until I saw the sunset you made on Tuesday. That was cool. It's amazing how many colors go together in a sunset. And it's amazing how they change. And it's amazing how a rainbow appears, and disappears, and reappears. The most beautiful is the one that goes from this horizon to here, complete. And then it's double nice when there's a double one. You don't see those too often, but they're beautiful. Children see things, recognize them, and talk about them as only children can. Simple questions are not difficult to ask. The honesty is not held back. Admiration and worship pours from genuine hearts. Can this be said of us adults? Jesus teaches some bringing the little children to him so he could lay his hands on them. He teaches some valuable lessons here. The disciples told those who were bringing them to stop, go back and sit down and listen to what Jesus had to say. And Jesus said, let the children come. Don't hinder them. Let them come to me. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them and those like them. Now Jesus was very busy. All the time he was on earth, he was busy. Busy, busy, busy. He would make our busy days look like a picnic. Between teaching in the temple and on the hillside, between private time, he had the disciples explaining to them what was going to happen, and his public ministry to the masses. He completely understood what it feels like to work 70 hours a week. Besides his general schedule, one could not fail to overlook the healings, the demon-possessed, the lame, the leper, the paralytic, his amazing display of power over the unquenchable powers of nature, his calm and claim over the people of the world as his lost children, his strenuous traveling from town to town. And no, he didn't ride in a Mercedes or a 4x4, he walked. His intellectual and spiritual battles with the Pharisees, scribes, and Sadducees, and his condemnation of the moral decline of the first century Palestine, from the extremes of feeding 5,000 men, plus women and children. They reckon it was more like 11,000. we see that no opportunity was too big or too small for the careful attention of the Master. Such conviction and persistence is no wonder his eyes were heavy by the overbearing bags and the weariness he must have felt. His blistered feet urged his disciples to prioritize his time. Let the only important people come to see him. We almost hear them agree as the children are carried for a blessing. The last thing Jesus needs to be bothered with is by a bunch of whining, screaming, pinching, clawing, dirty diapered, slobbering kids. Anyone could understand that. It is how we feel after a difficult day, let alone a difficult week or year. However, Jesus' indignant words of rebuke rang out. All the well-meaning disciples, their ears were ringing as he commanded that the children be brought forward. No, don't stop them. Let them come. For this represents the kingdom of heaven. Childlike in its approach. Don't let the familiarity of the story take away from its amazing implications. Jesus wanted to be near the children. He wanted to sit with them. He loved them, always loved them. They were people needing grace and forgiveness, no different than us adults. They were the epitome of faith and hope. He ironically rebuked those protecting him and reached for those who burdened his already busy schedule. Now, why the disciples wondered, why would he do this? We're only trying to give him a rest. Why can't he see? Jesus didn't want the children turned away because their faith is to be modeled by all. A child's faith is absolute, complete, without question. By faith, perhaps even blind faith, children will listen. Simple faith that hopes to learn more and develop into the type that is able to move mountains. Faith that is trusting enough to think that the God of creation wants us to sit in his lap. Put yourself in that position. Jesus would have you sit in his lap. Put your arm around his neck and talk to him. If you can't understand these concepts, get involved in VBS or teach a Sunday school class. We have much to learn about how Christian concept is to accept the kingdom of earth. This wide-eyed, open-hearted approach of children not only works with Jesus, but is commanded by him of all of us. The confused disciples thought to themselves, everyone has faith beliefs like a child. To believe in God is to exercise this. It's not as complex as he makes it out to be. However, Jesus' next move startled them even more, shaking the very foundation of their theology. Because it wasn't long after this little exercise with the children that he came across the rich young ruler, who came running up with a question for the master. Now, he's an adult, he's permitted. You can ask his question. What Jesus does and says explains even further what he is trying to get across. Here's a rich young man young, strapping, outwardly intelligent, strong, working. He believes in God. Yes, he does. He offers obedience to a point, even displays his society's understanding of what it is to be blessed. However, he chooses himself over Christ. His wealth and his intelligence serve only to make him ignorant and poor. He walks away with all he desires. What did Jesus say to him? If you want salvation, go sell everything you have and come, follow me after you've given it to the poor. His desires were his wealth. At the same time, carrying his wealth or the knowledge of his wealth with him, he walks away in reality with nothing. Because he's given up what is worth more than all he has. Compared to children, he has nothing to offer the master because his faith has limits. My faith is limited to the amount I have in possessions and in ready cash. A child's faith is not limited by anything. Do we have limits on our faith? Who are you, the rich young ruler whose faith went only just so far? The overprotected disciples who thought they understood Messiah's needs and wants more than anyone else did? Or the children who just longed to be closer to him? The child who knows the Lord always has time to talk, to laugh, to cry, to hear the confessions of the sincere heart. Our duty here on earth is filled with a paradox. We gain wealth by giving it all away. We become wise by buying into what the world calls foolish. We become strong by admitting our weakness, and we grow by becoming more childlike, not childish, in our faith. Christians do need to grow up. We are immature. We are non-productive. However, the road to maturity must come through faith. It was the child's faith in the Father that brought the prodigal son home. With our faith in the Father, will it do the same